By the time Howard got his memory back, we had already bonded for life. You kidnapped me. For this? The alpha who'd been so gentle and loving just a day ago now looked at me with cold disgust. Get the bond removed. You don't deserve to be my omega. Later, during the car crash, I swerved in front of Howard's car, taking the full force of the impact for him. I brought you home because I liked you. It wasn't a kidnapping. A flood of blood pooled beneath me. I winced. Sorry, I whispered to him. I never got the chance to have the bond removed. But then again, if I die, that won't be necessary, right? 3 days after Howard recovered his memory, I was arrested by the Capitol Police. They threw me into a temporary holding cell. Late at night, I was huddled in a dark corner of the freezing cell, trying to stay out of the light. I heard a set of footsteps slowly approaching. It was Howard. I didn't even have to look. I knew the length and rhythm of his stride. Howard stopped outside the iron bars. The fluorescent lights of the hallway split us into 2 different worlds, one of light and one of shadow. He shimmered like a god. I was as insignificant as an ant in the dirt. Alex. Howard's gaze was cold as he looked down at me. Do you know what you're charged with? What a heartless first thing to say to me. Sleeping with an alpha who had amnesia and the IQ of a golden retriever? I tilted my head, a smirk on my face. I asked just to piss him off, but it's not like I forced you, right? I mean, I was the one crying and begging you to stop in the end, but you just wouldn't. Shut up. Howard's sharp voice cut me off. A muscle twitched along his sharp, chiseled jaw. He was angry, because of me. Before the smile could fade from my face, I felt Howard release his pheromones. An invisible pressure, heavy as a mountain, crashed down on me. My head swam, and a sharp, pulling pain shot through my lower abdomen. Howard was using his pheromones to dominate me. Because we were bonded for life, I had no way to resist that kind of suppression. I collapsed to my knees on the floor. The smile was gone. The alpha pheromones that once brought me so much happiness were now poison darts. Howard, I was covered in a cold sweat. I forced a smile. Hey, easy on the pheromones. You should be a little gentler with your omega. My omega? Howard scoffed. You and your father planned my kidnapping just to get my lifelong bond. Didn't you? My father? I don't know what you're talking about. My father's been missing for a long time. Howard reined in his pheromones. The police have already confirmed he was the mastermind behind my kidnapping, the one that left me injured with amnesia, he said coldly. As for how involved you were, we'll have an answer tomorrow. He gave me a long, hard look. The alpha who'd been so gentle and loving just a day ago now looked at me with cold disgust. But before you go to prison, you will have that bond removed. Because you don't deserve to be my omega. I leaned against the cold wall of the cell and thought all night. I wondered how a person could become so hateful the moment their memory returned. He was completely different from when he had amnesia. The amnesiac Howard didn't look down his nose at people. He forgot who I was. He treated me like his savior. He was so clueless, so cute. Everything changed 3 days ago. Howard was on his way home when his car got rear-ended by a truck. His head hit the steering wheel and he was knocked out for a bit. By the time I rushed to the hospital, I was told he'd just been picked up by a helicopter. Look, there it goes. A beta nurse pointed to a slowly moving red dot in the night sky. I've never seen a helicopter in real life before. That alpha must be someone important. The guys who picked him up were all wearing black suits. Said they were from the Capitol. I stared up until the red dot vanished, my neck stiff and sore. Only then did I ask, did he say anything before he left? He did. The nurse pulled a jewelry box out of a drawer. It was beautiful, wrapped in blue velvet. He asked me to throw this away for him. I took it and opened it. Inside were 2 simple rings. The first letters of our names were engraved on the inside of each band. My heart, which had been pounding heavily, suddenly felt light. It was a strange time to wonder, but I did. Did Howard want us to wear the ring with the other's name on it? Or our own? But it didn't matter anymore, because Howard had his memory back. He realized he'd done a lot of stupid things while he had amnesia, like buying rings for the person he used to hate most in the world. and planning to propose. Just like I had secretly hidden Howard away 6 months ago, I secretly hid away the rings he'd bought. Ever since I got home from the hospital, I haven't been able to sleep much. Just like tonight, every time I close my eyes, I see Howard the last time he walked out that door. He was tall, wearing the khaki trench coat I'd bought for him. He stood in the foyer, leaned down, and kissed me. He told me he'd already made reservations at the restaurant for that evening. He told me not to be late. With a loud clang, the cell door swung open. "Alex," an officer shouted from the doorway. "Someone's posted your bail. You can go." Bail? How was that possible? Howard was the most powerful alpha in the capital. Did I know someone even more powerful than him? My lower abdomen was still aching. I forced myself to stand up straight. I walked out of the police station with my head held high. The sun was already up. A stretch Rolls-Royce, long and black like a sleek shark, glided to a stop in front of me. The door opened. 2 men in black suits appeared out of nowhere behind me and pushed me into the car. In the back seat, a man in a tailored suit turned his head to light a cigar. What a show-off. Just a few days ago, this guy was wearing an apron and cooking for me. "Howard, is your head still messed up?" I blinked, looking at him with mock concern. "You're the one who wanted me in jail, and you're the one who bailed me out." "Oh, I get it." I scooted closer. "You couldn't stand being without me, could you?" I said smugly. Howard brought the cigar closer to my cheek. I felt the heat and had no choice but to pull back. He blew out a cloud of gray-white smoke, obscuring his expression. "Prison is too good for you." I had nothing left to lose, so I wasn't afraid of prison or anything else. But I still wanted to mess with him. I pretended to be terrified, shrinking back against the car door. My eyes were wide as I asked, "You're not going to just kill me, are you?" Howard looked at me coldly. "For 6 months, countless people were looking for me, and you hid me away. Lawson Corp stock dropped by billions because of it. Alex, your life isn't enough to pay for that. But I saved your life." I said it seriously. "Believe it or not, I haven't heard from my dad in almost a year. Even if he did kidnap you, it had nothing to do with me." Howard let out a low, cold laugh. He ignored me after that. He wasn't the man he'd been. He was back on top, the most powerful alpha in the capital. For him, crushing me would be easier than squashing an ant. The same went for his feelings. He didn't need me anymore, so he could do anything. The Rolls-Royce sped along the coastal highway. The driver was skilled, making the car cut through the still air like a fish through water. I leaned back into the ergonomic seat, the faint scent of expensive leather mixing with Howard's own scent. My mind grew fuzzy. Vaguely, I heard Howard on the phone. "Almost there. Is the doctor ready?" I closed my eyes and smiled. A little part of me was happy that the jerk still cared. He even knew to get a doctor to check on me. But when did he notice I wasn't feeling well? I don't know when the car stopped. One of the men in black shook me awake. "We're here. Get out." I opened my eyes. Howard was gone. Where's Howard? I got out of the car and looked at the gray-white estate in front of me. Where are we? No one answered. I was escorted by 4 men in black into the basement of the main house. In the dim light, I saw a steel door with a keypad lock. Shit, that psycho Howard was going to imprison me. I turned and ran. The men grabbed me easily and dragged me into the room. A Caucasian doctor in a white coat pulled on a pair of gloves. "Strap him to the medical bed, face down," he ordered. "Howard? Where's Howard?" I screamed my lungs out. I hadn't slept properly in 3 days and hadn't had a bite to eat or a drop of water all day. I struggled, but they pinned me to the bed with ease. "Let me go. Human experimentation is illegal. So is removing an Omega's bond without their consent." Leather restraints were fastened around my wrists and ankles. I felt a cold sensation on the back of my neck and smelled antiseptic. "We're not removing the bond," the doctor said. "We're just extracting some glandular fluid." The next second, a needle pierced my glands without mercy. My scream was swallowed by the room, echoing off the walls. The sensation of the fluid being drawn out wasn't distinct, but for some reason, my chest ached with an unbearable pain. The pain traveled down through my organs, finally settling in my lower abdomen. Howard must really hate me. What do I do? He doesn't love me anymore. Soon they let me up. They chained me by a delicate chain to the large bed in the corner. I was exhausted but couldn't close my eyes. I was too scared. I stared, unblinking, at the medical bed. For the next few extractions, I didn't scream again. I thought that if I was cooperative, if I was good, maybe Howard would forgive me and let me go. I don't know how many days passed. Then Howard finally came. I sat up straight. Quietly, trying to please him, I released some of my pheromones. But my glands felt withered. The usually sweet scent was now bitter. Howard frowned. He scanned me up and down, his eyes fierce. My face flushed hot, then cold. I forced a smile and asked, "Does it not smell good anymore?" "Maybe it's because they took too much." I begged him cautiously, "Please let me go. Once I'm better, you can take more." "Okay." Just then, the doctor came in. I flinched, dragging the chain on my ankle as I scrambled back into the corner. Howard's face darkened instantly. He dragged the doctor outside and started yelling. The door wasn't closed all the way. I could hear his fragmented roars. "This is what you call no physical side effects. Why does he look so pale and drained? Like he's dying? Stop it immediately." I froze. I looked at my own faint reflection in the steel door. For a moment, I couldn't tell if I was pretending to be pitiful or if I really was. The way I looked, did I really look like I was dying? Howard came back in. I looked at him hopefully. "Can you let me go now?" He walked over to me. He grabbed my chin, his voice vicious. "In your dreams. This is nothing. You hid me for 6 months." After that day, Howard moved me upstairs. The chain on my ankle was attached to the foot of his bed. It seemed I had truly become his prisoner. They stopped extracting fluid from my glands, but my health didn't improve. In fact, I got weaker. One morning, I woke up and saw Howard's face. I suddenly couldn't stop myself from throwing up. Howard froze for a second. Then a vein pulsed on his forehead as he gritted out, "Alex, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Does the sight of me make you sick?" I tried to suppress the churning pain in my stomach. "No, it's not that," I said weakly. "My stomach just suddenly feels upset." Howard didn't believe me. He furiously dragged me to the hospital. After the endoscopy, the doctor spoke with a serious tone. "It's acute gastritis. You need to eat regularly, and you can't be under too much stress or anxiety." I looked up at Howard, my expression pitiful, trying to appeal to what little conscience and sympathy he had left. "See? This is all your fault." Howard's brows were knitted together. He actually seemed to be listening carefully to the doctor's advice. Knowing that I was really sick seemed to soothe his wounded pride. Back at the estate, he finally took the chain off me. He even let me move around the main house freely. "You'd better behave," Howard warned, his face cold. "Don't even think about running." In my head, I thought, "Screw you." Out loud, I said, "Okay." I didn't even dare to ask him why he was keeping me here. I guess the great young master wanted revenge. Maybe he had to lock me up for 6 months to feel better. Or maybe he still needed to extract fluid from my glands to weaken the lifelong bond he'd given me. Howard hired a private chef and a nutritionist. I was fed the best food and drink. I still felt sick often, but I was throwing up less. A few days later, the estate had a rare visitor. "Howard's not here," I said, standing on the elegant spiral staircase, looking down at the person below. "Hello, my name is Richard. I'm Howard's brother." The male Omega had a handsome face and a gentle, polite demeanor. "You must be Alex, right? My brother has mentioned you. Howard talked about me to other people." I gave an awkward smile and walked down the stairs. "What did he say about me?" Richard said, "He said you lived together while he had amnesia. And now that you're sick, he wants to repay your kindness. So he's having you stay here as a guest." "Yeah, right. Repay me." Howard must have been gritting his teeth when he said that. "About your father," Richard began, then trailed off. "I'm very sorry about what happened." I froze, frowning. "What about my father?" Richard looked so innocent and sincere. "If he hadn't been kicked off the Lawson Corp board by Howard's father, your father wouldn't have fallen apart and ended up kidnapping Howard." He stopped abruptly, as if he'd said too much. "Was it really my dad who kidnapped Howard?" I couldn't help but grab his arm. What exactly happened back then? I demanded. Richard's eyes darted away. He waved his hand. I don't know the details. You should ask Howard. He has the executive files from back then on his computer in his study. You can find everything there. The study, the computer. I knew what Richard was saying sounded like a trap, but I was desperate to know what had happened all those years ago. My father used to be my uncle's best friend and the second largest shareholder in Lawson Corp. Why was he kicked off the board overnight? Why did he become a debt-ridden fugitive? My mother killed herself because of it. I had to drop out of college. My uncle and Howard were always tight-lipped about the reason. I could never find out the truth. I never thought that being imprisoned here by Howard would actually give me a chance to uncover it. Late that night, I took the decryption drive Richard had given me and snuck into Howard's study. The decryption process went smoothly. I got into Howard's computer. My heart was hammering against my ribs. The moment I clicked on the encrypted Lawson Corp file, the study was flooded with light. Before I could see who it was, a powerful force grabbed me. My vision blurred violently. I was slammed down onto the 2-meter-wide solid wood desk. Howard's hands pinned me down, his eyes burning with rage like molten lava. Alex, I really underestimated you. Do you have any idea what the penalty is for stealing corporate secrets? I struggled, crying out in pain. I didn't. I just wanted to find out what happened to my father. Still lying? You forced Richard to get you the decryption drive, told him you just wanted to steal some secrets to sell, and that if he didn't, you'd drug me. Howard sneered. He drove his knee hard into my abdomen. The pitiful act was fake, and the sickness was fake too, wasn't it? I never should have given you a chance. Because you're the same as you've always been. Utterly despicable. Despair and shame washed over me with the pain. I stared blankly at Howard. He suddenly felt like a stranger. We'd known each other for over a decade. So this is how he's always seen me. I thought I should beg for mercy. Be shameless and annoying like I used to be. That's how I used to survive. The worst that would happen was getting beaten up by some debt collectors. But I couldn't say the words now. You can only beg when you have something to bargain with. I used to cling to Howard shamelessly. Now, I had nothing. Howard let me go. He watched coldly as I slid off the desk and collapsed onto the floor. Alex, you didn't really think I fell in love with you, did you? The truth is, I got my memory back a month ago. I was just playing along to investigate my own kidnapping without tipping off the real criminals. There was a roaring in my ears, but Howard's voice was painfully clear. I couldn't ignore it even if I wanted to. Seeing my stunned silence, Howard kicked me with the toe of his shoe. It didn't hurt, but I couldn't help but flinch. I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Howard's face was suddenly very close, but his voice sounded very far away. His expression was so strange. It was as if I were really dying. Before I lost consciousness, I heard things for a few seconds. I heard Howard repeating what he'd just said. You're the same as you've always been. Despicable and disgusting. Before, I thought hazily. What was I like before? When I was 15, my father invested in Lawson Corp, becoming a shareholder in the country's top conglomerate. For the next few years, Howard and I saw each other frequently at family dinners and business events. Howard was a top-tier alpha. His physique and looks always made him stand out in a crowd. Our parents often joked about us getting married. I would grin like an idiot, overjoyed. Howard's face would be like ice. Behind our parents' backs, he'd warn me, if you see me at school, you'd better pretend you don't know me. Stay away. When I was 19, Howard caught me climbing through a window in the teacher's office to steal an exam paper. Please, please, please don't tell on me. I cornered him against the wall, my hands on either side of him. I looked up, batting my eyelashes, and said sweetly, if you let me go, I'll let you bite my glands. Just a little one, okay? Howard frowned, disgusted. Alex, I have no interest in a shameless, delinquent omega like you. He had high moral standards even back then. He turned around and reported me. I got a beating with a belt from my father for that. But it was okay. I was only stealing the exam to get a better grade, to convince my father to come home and have dinner with my mom. The end result was the same. So the next time I saw Howard, I was still smiling like a fool. And he still gave me the cold shoulder. If you could fold time, you'd see that the Howard of today was exactly the same as the Howard from years ago. He despised me just as much as he always had. It was just that the last 6 months had been a strange interruption, like a bizarre dream, and now it was time to wake up. I opened my eyes. I was in a hospital bed. The doctor was standing next to Howard. Now that he's awake, he should be fine for now, he said. The stomach bleeding will require a long period of rest. Howard nodded. The doctor left. Don't you have anything you want to explain? Howard said calmly, arrogantly, you can talk now. I didn't have the strength to argue with him anymore. I slowly blinked, then closed my eyes again. As expected, Howard's voice was stiff. I checked the security footage and questioned the staff. It's true that Richard misled you. He admitted it. I've already had him come to apologize. He's right outside the door. Don't bother, I said. Tell him to go to the Chapel of Eternal Blessings on top of Mount Crest and pray for a good luck charm for me instead. See how generous I am? The best part was, Mount Crest was 2,000 feet high, and there was no such thing as a Chapel of Eternal Blessings. Maybe it was because of the tube from the surgery. My voice was horribly hoarse, barely human. Howard froze for a second, then fell silent. You don't have to apologize either, I said. Howard, I wasn't planning on it. Then why are you still here? I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Suddenly, I heard a buzzing sound very close by. My eyes flew open. Howard was holding up his phone. Are you taking pictures of me? Don't flatter yourself. Howard showed me his screen, his face dark. It's a call. He answered it and started walking out. Uncle. A few minutes later, a well-dressed, middle-aged man walked into the room. Hello, Alex. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and seemed gentle and polite. I'm Howard's uncle, Victor Lawson. I'm also Richard's adoptive father. I've come today to apologize on Richard's behalf. I pushed myself up. There's no need. Howard was in the wrong too. There are some things he shouldn't have hidden from you. You have a right to know. My heart pounded. I realized I was getting infinitely close to the truth. Victor said grimly, your father was indeed the mastermind behind Howard's kidnapping. And the door was thrown open with a bang. Howard rushed in, his face grim. Uncle, please leave. Let him finish. I screamed, my voice hoarse, my body trembling. Let him finish, please, Howard. Let me tell him myself. Howard said to Victor, please go home. Victor turned and patted his shoulder. After you tell him, let the kid go home, he said meaningfully. You should be focusing on the company again. Once he's gone, you'll finally have time to go with me to B City to discuss the acquisition, right? It was your father's last wish. Howard gave a slight nod, his expression pained. Victor turned back to me. Don't be too sad, son. The future will be as you wish. The room was quiet again. Howard finally spoke. Your father was fired for embezzling funds and selling off company shares at a loss. I stared at him, bewildered. Impossible. I whispered. He went to the casinos for 3 days with a rich kid who just joined the company, and after that he started going frequently. Howard continued, the police suspect that out of resentment, he also orchestrated my father's murder before he kidnapped me. I was shaking all over. I couldn't believe the calm, family-oriented man I knew as my father could become that person. So what now? Is he in jail? He killed himself to escape justice, Howard said heavily. The police found his body last night. I didn't believe it, but he was dead. There was no one to ask. Gone. My mom, my dad, my future, all gone. I felt like a balloon that had been slowly deflating. I curled up on the hospital bed, a wrinkled mess. Just let me be alone for a while, I told Howard. I don't know how much time passed. I felt a warm trickle between my legs. In the bathroom, I saw the blood on my pants. It hit me like a ton of bricks. The abdominal discomfort, the loss of appetite, the lack of energy for so long, and the occasional morning sickness. It all pointed to one thing. I think I was pregnant with Howard's child. After I was discharged, Howard took me to the police station to identify my father's body. My father was dead. The case was closed. On the ride back, I asked Howard numbly, "I'm not a suspect anymore, right? Right?" Howard glanced at me, his tone uncharacteristically gentle. "You're not going to prison. Don't be scared." "I'm not scared." I looked down, avoiding his eyes. "So when are you going to let me go?" It was like a switch flipped in Howard. His face instantly darkened. "Alex, don't get ahead of yourself. I'm only keeping you around because I feel sorry for you. I'm willing to overlook what happened." "Okay," I said, my head still down. "But I can't say thank you," I said calmly. "Just let me go. I'll never show up in front of you again. Even if I see you, I'll pretend I don't know you. I'll stay far away." Howard looked like he'd been choked. He glared at me for several seconds. Suddenly, he roared at the driver. "Stop the car." The Rolls-Royce screeched to a halt. I instinctively put a hand over my stomach to steady myself against the inertia. The door opened. Howard stared straight ahead, his voice cold. "Get out." I took one last look at his profile. The setting sun streamed through the window, outlining his handsome features in gold. I thought to myself, "Hey, kiddo. Look, your dad is drop-dead gorgeous. But he's such a drama queen." I got out of the car. I took a chain out of my pocket. I slipped the 2 simple rings off it and held them out to Howard. "Sorry. You asked someone to throw these away, but I kept them. Here, you can have them back now." Howard stared at the rings in my hand. The cold mask on his face showed the faintest signs of cracking. "Alex." He squinted at me, a meaningful smile on his face. "You really are a natural-born thief, aren't you? Is there anything you won't steal?" With that, Howard snatched the rings from my hand and threw them out the window. He threw them so far, I didn't even hear them land. "You're giving them back to me now? You want me to look at them and miss you? Or did you think I would give something so cheap and tacky to my future Omega? You're pathetic, Alex." I calmly watched Howard unleash his final attack. I realized he was right. I was a little pathetic, so I gave a small smile. But Howard wasn't smiling. He seemed even angrier. "I'm giving you one last chance. Get back in the car if you don't want to get lost." I shook my head and waved goodbye. The door closed, and the Rolls-Royce pulled away. The wheels spun so fast they seemed to glide motionlessly over the pavement. I touched my stomach. "Your dad is a real piece of work. Throwing us out in the middle of nowhere," I said. "Couldn't he have at least found a bus stop?" I thought a lot on the way home. Maybe I was being too selfish. If the child stayed with Howard, they would have a life of luxury and an enviable future. I told myself I shouldn't hide it. I shouldn't be fantasizing about raising a child on my own. But after thinking it over and over, I still believed that if Howard found out, he would most likely force me to get an abortion. "So, sorry kid, you're stuck with me." I patted my still flat stomach. When I got home, I decided to move. While packing, I found a locked wooden box. I couldn't find the key, so I just smashed the lock. Inside were some of my father's documents and a phone I'd never seen before. I charged the phone. To my surprise, it still turned on. There were calls and messages from only one number. The last message read, "Proceed as planned. Chairman Xia, the future will be as you wish." The future will be as you wish. Why did that phrase sound so familiar? I read the phone number over and over. Suddenly, it clicked. The day I was hospitalized for stomach bleeding. I had seen this number on Howard's phone screen. It was his uncle, Victor. He was the real mastermind behind everything. Hiding in plain sight, how could Howard have ever suspected that the true culprit was his only living relative? I immediately grabbed my own phone and called Howard. It rang for a long time. Finally, his assistant answered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Alex. Mr. Lawson is in a meeting and can't take your call." Damn it. Was this jerk just showing off again? I have something extremely important to tell him. Put him on the phone. The assistant said, "Mr. Lawson is in a meeting with a client about an acquisition. Can I have him call you back when he's finished?" Wait, Victor did mention Howard going to be city for an acquisition. Before the assistant could hang up, I asked, "Is Victor Lawson there?" "Yes." The line went dead. A terrible feeling grew stronger in my chest. I started driving toward B City while calling the police. I took pictures of all the messages on my father's phone and sent them to the cops. Halfway there, Howard actually called me back. What is it? Howard, listen to me carefully. I found your uncle's messages on my dad's phone. They're very suspicious. I think your uncle was the one behind your kidnapping. You need to. Howard let out a sudden, cold laugh. Let me guess, he mocked. You're gonna say I need to be careful, and you're already on your way to protect me, right? Alex, if you regret leaving, just say so. You don't have to make up such a ridiculous story. He hung up. At that moment, I was just entering the B-City Expressway. As I slowed down for the toll, I saw Howard's flashy Rolls-Royce coming from the opposite direction. I immediately swung my car around on the ramp to chase after him. When I was about 100 yards away, a semi-truck sped past me, heading straight for the Rolls-Royce. Bang! A massive crash. The trunk and taillights of the Rolls were smashed, and the car nearly spun out. I floored the gas pedal and dialed Howard's number. Howard, tell your driver to speed up. The engine screamed. I slammed my pickup truck between the Rolls and the semi, taking the next brutal hit for him. Howard's furious roar came through the phone. Alex, are you insane? Get the hell out of the way. I roared back. You speed the hell up. Is your car all for show? Just like you. He didn't hang up. I could hear his driver calling the police, and the screech of tires. Amid the chaos and noise, I saw a fork in the road a few dozen yards ahead. I swerved out of the way, then slammed into the front of the semi from the left. The semi driver jerked the wheel. Right before it flipped, it sent my truck flying into the guardrail. Impact. Scraping. The pickup spun out of control I don't know how many times. Then it stopped. The world suddenly went quiet. My whole body was numb, but my mind was still on high alert. I was breathing in shaky gasps. I unbuckled my seatbelt and got out of the truck. I saw Howard sprinting toward me. Then he stopped dead. He was so close. It was like he'd stopped breathing. Only his blood-red eyes were trembling. What's wrong? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't help but cough. A spray of bloody mist. I looked down. Only then did I see the massive red stain spreading across my clothes. My lower half was soaked. It left a horrifying trail of blood on the ground. The red in Howard's eyes. It was me. All my strength vanished in an instant. Not a single drop left. A breeze blew past. I swayed. Howard caught me before I could fall. Howard knelt on the ground, holding me. He roared at his driver, "Call an ambulance." But when he looked down at me, his voice was gentle. "It's okay, it's okay. The ambulance will be here soon. Alex, don't fall asleep. Just hold on a little longer. Please." But I've been holding on for so long. Ever since my mom died, I've been holding on. Then I met you, and I found a reason to live again. But now, I touched my stomach. Feels like that's gone too. Howard didn't understand. He just thought I was in pain. He wanted to hold me tighter but didn't dare. Even his fingertips were trembling as they touched me. He gritted his teeth, but his voice wasn't harsh at all. "Why are you bleeding so much? Why did you come back? Why are you so stupid?" I managed a weak smile. "You, don't get too smug," I said, trying to be defiant. "I only came to save you, to make up for my dad's mistake." But Howard was crying. Tears splashed onto my face. So I tried to soothe him. "But the first time I saved you, that was because I liked you. I brought you home because I liked you. It wasn't a kidnapping. You idiot. I've liked you for so long, since the very first time I saw you." But my words didn't comfort him. He just stared at me blankly, tears streaming down his face. I suddenly smelled alpha pheromones. Howard was trying to soothe my pain. Ever since we met again at the police station, he had rarely released his pheromones for me. The one time he did, it was to dominate me. My mind was slow to catch up. It was probably because our lifelong bond was still there. So Howard must have been feeling my pain, and that's why he had no choice but to release some pheromones. "I'm sorry." I frowned and whispered. I never got the chance to have the bond removed. The blood kept flowing. My consciousness was fading. Right before I slipped into total darkness, I comforted myself. "If I die, that won't be necessary, right? More than once, Howard had watched Alex's face in the dead of night. When he didn't have his memory, he would look at him and think, "My Omega is so cute," even though the food this person made was terrible. And he was always bossing him around. But he also took care of him with so much patience. He would comfort him, saying, "Don't worry. It's okay if you can't remember anything. I'll take care of you." Alex found a doctor to treat his injuries. Alex bought him so many clothes, and they were all handsome and fit perfectly. When he went into rut and lost control, Alex held him in his arms, ignoring the danger. Alex got hurt badly by him, got sick, but he still said it's okay with red-rimmed eyes. Alex was so good. He wanted to be with Alex forever. If losing his memory was what it took to meet Alex, why hadn't he fallen into the ocean sooner? That's what the intellectually challenged Howard thought. Then, one ordinary morning, Howard woke up and felt some memories surfacing. His memory began to return, slowly, until he remembered everything, that his name wasn't the stupid name Buddy. Alex had lied to him. He'd even made up the name on the spot. Alex was as despicable and shameless as ever. He knew exactly who he was, where he lived, but he still hid him from the world. Even worse, he took advantage of his rut and got his lifelong bond. Howard suspected that had been Alex's goal all along. After all, Alex's father was deeply in debt at the time. If he could marry into the Lawson family, Alex could go back to his life of luxury. Howard didn't let on. He kept pretending to be an idiot, staying by Alex's side. It wasn't until he discovered the connection between the kidnapping and Alex's father that he was truly disappointed. He was shocked that Alex and his father would go to such lengths for money. The rings he'd secretly ordered when he had amnesia were ready. Howard used the excuse of picking them up to contact his most loyal subordinate. But by a strange coincidence, he got into a car accident on the way. His subordinate happened to take him to the nearest hospital. It was a hit and run. Howard didn't have time to investigate. He left with his men soon after. According to Victor's later confession, he had orchestrated that car accident as well. Alex was smart. He knew to change Howard's name. He had a doctor come to the house to treat his injuries. He never even risked buying alpha suppressants. He successfully hid all traces of Howard's existence. Howard stood before the glass window of the ICU, staring inside for a long time. The Omega on the bed was pale. An oxygen mask covered half his face. His body under the blanket was broken and fragile. Even his outline seemed faint. Howard stared at his face and thought, "I'm the stupid one. I'm the despicable one. Shameless." He wanted to tell Alex, "Just wake up. You can curse me out all you want. You can change my name. You can boss me around. You can do anything." Late one night, the monitor by Alex's bed suddenly let out a piercing alarm. Doctors rushed in, blocking Howard's view. He couldn't see Alex's face anymore, so he tried to rush in too. His subordinates and the doctors held him down. They gave him a shot of sedative. Howard fought to stay conscious, but he stopped struggling. He sat on the hallway bench like a man who had lost his soul. A doctor came over. "We've stabilized the patient for now." But he suffered a severe impact after conception, and the blood loss was massive. On top of that, his broken ribs punctured a lung. The injuries are extremely serious. The family should prepare for the worst. Pregnant? Howard looked up blankly. "Who's pregnant?" The doctor frowned. "Your Omega is 8 weeks pregnant. You didn't know? The morning sickness, the unusual craving for alpha pheromones. You didn't notice any of it?" "No," Howard thought, his mind reeling in agony. He'd been feeling sick for that long? When Alex got to the hospital and saw his alpha had vanished without a word, how did he feel? When he saw the rings that had been thrown away, how did he feel? It was a long way from home to the Capitol Police Station. Alex had endured a rough journey. He was thrown into a cold, damp holding cell, then had to bear his rage and pheromonal suppression. Back then, was he in pain? Howard wanted to ask, but his throat felt like it was stuffed with a burning piece of charcoal. The pain was suffocating, and he couldn't make a sound. The pitiful act was fake, and the sickness was fake too, wasn't it? "I never should have given you a chance." Because you're the same as you've always been. Utterly despicable. The words he'd said were now like shards of poisoned glass, flowing back into his heart with his own blood. The pain was like a knife twisting in his chest. In his agony, a flood of other memories came back to him. He remembered driving his knee into Alex's abdomen. He remembered not only withholding his soothing pheromones but dragging Alex to the basement, tying him to a bed and extracting fluid from his glands. He remembered throwing away the rings Alex had treasured for so long, and all the other horrible things he'd said. Finally, Howard remembered Alex's blood-streaked face. He was so light when he collapsed in his arms. He'd said he liked him. "I brought you home because I liked you. It wasn't a kidnapping." Alex must have been in so much pain when he said that. He must have thought he was dying. That's the only reason he would confess to an idiot. "You're the one who should die," Howard told himself. After several more close calls, Alex's vital signs finally stabilized. Howard stayed in the ICU watching over him. He never left the hospital for a second. He continuously released his pheromones to soothe him, while talking non-stop to the unconscious Alex. He said, "I'm sorry," over and over again. He said, "I regretted it the moment you walked out of that police station. I couldn't let you go to prison. I had to do whatever it took. So I pulled some strings to get you out and keep you at my house. I was so scared then. Scared that you would leave if you found out about your father. But I was too proud to ask you to stay. So I asked the doctor about extracting glandular fluid. I wanted to be able to smell your pheromones during every rut." "I'm sorry." Howard gently stroked Alex's hand. "Did it hurt a lot when they took the fluid?" From constantly releasing his pheromones, his own glands were on the verge of collapse. He had fainted several times. A week later, Alex finally woke up. "Who are you?" That's what he asked Howard. "Head trauma or massive blood loss can both cause amnesia," the doctor said after an examination. "I'd advise against trying to force his memories to return. Take it slow." "Who are you?" Alex asked again. Howard sat back down beside him. "I'm your alpha," he said softly. "Alex, what's your name?" Howard was silent for a few seconds. "My name is Buddy." Alex frowned. It was unclear if he was dissatisfied with his alpha or with his alpha's name. Howard, afraid he wouldn't be believed, took out his phone. "Look," he showed him the lock screen. "I took this a while ago while you were asleep." The photo was from when Alex was hospitalized for his stomach bleeding. He had been pretending to be asleep. The corners of his lips were turned down in a slight, unhappy pout. He wasn't a very good actor. Right after Howard took the picture, his phone had rung, and Alex had found out. Alex looked at the photo, checked the date. He tentatively believed Howard's story, and allowed him to stay. After Alex had fully recovered, Howard took him back to the seaside cottage. The cottage had been renovated while Alex was in the hospital. Having lost all his memories, Alex always seemed a bit lost, his reactions a little slow. Howard was worried Alex would get hurt or catch a cold. He had the entire cottage fitted with cashmere carpets. He had also carefully sorted through all of Alex's parents' belongings. He didn't want Alex to remember. Most of his memories were too brutal. Howard invented an ordinary past for Alex. When Alex had questions, Howard would answer, "Your parents loved you very much, but they got sick and passed away a long time ago." Alex would inevitably get sad. Howard would stay by his side. He would only hold him when he was allowed. He would tell him, "You still have me. You always will." Victor Lawson was brought to justice. His sentence was so long he would die in prison. Howard sold his shares in Lawson Corp. He transferred all of his assets to Alex's name. Alex stared at his mobile banking app, at the long string of numbers he couldn't even count. "Do I really have this much money?" he asked in disbelief. "You do," Howard said. "You said you were going to take care of me." With that, he took out 2 simple silver rings. He got down on one knee. "Alex, I love you. Marry me. I'll do anything. Please don't leave me." Alex didn't really feel anything. His memory was a blank slate. He didn't know what love was. He wasn't sure if he wanted to be loved. Seeing him hesitate, Howard looked up and explained, "I had these ready before you lost your memory." The day he threw the rings away, He had wanted to go back for them almost immediately. But he was afraid Alex would see him, so he circled the area like a creep for ages. When he finally found them, he'd thrown a fit. He'd muttered about how stubborn Alex was, how he couldn't even be bothered to pick up the rings himself. His driver was terrified, thinking his boss's head injury still hadn't healed. Alex picked up a ring. He saw the initials engraved on the inside. I. L. Alex. Howard. Wait, he said his name was Buddy. So strange, but it didn't seem to be a problem. He was still a kind person. Seeing Howard kneeling for so long, he asked, "Which one do you want to wear?" Did he want to wear the ring with the other's name on it? Or his own? A faint, familiar feeling surfaced in his mind, as if he had asked this question once before. Alex's, Howard said, because he owed Alex so much. So every time he saw the ring, it would remind him of the mistakes he had made. Alex took Howard's left hand and slipped the ring on his finger. But he put the other one away. "I haven't decided if I want to wear it yet. When I remember what happened before or when I've made up my mind, I'll put it on. Is that okay?" Howard let Alex pull him to his feet. Then he gently hugged him. "Okay," he said. Howard thought, if Alex ever remembers the past, he'll probably throw the ring away just like I did. No, Alex would throw it even farther. But that's okay. No matter how far he throws it, he will find it again. And then he will come running back to beg for his forgiveness.